Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, ModzvilleUSA here, back with another video. And today we got something I've been putting off for, I don't know, the better part of a year. This is the new Nintendo 3DS with the optimized capture kit for this system. Now, I hear this one's a doozy. Pretty gnarly micro soldering going on, a lot of shell cutting, and we're working off Japanese instructions that have been translated to English, so there's going to be a bit lost in translation there. Now, I've done this kit for the old 3DS. Timestamp up here. I did the old 3DS LL or XL version of it, which I believe is one of the easier ones. Dubenhauer, he did the smaller old 3DS install video, which I believe is a little bit more difficult. I'll have that linked down below, so if you're seeing this video, there should be a video for every variation of these kits. And this one right here is the gnarliest one. A lot of micro soldering. You're going to want optics, and you're going to want patience, because yeah, these things are super fragile. I'm not as worried about the soldering as I am just taking apart a new 3DS. I haven't taken one apart in many years. Back in the day, I used to downgrade these for people before NTRBOOT came out, and all the easier methods that are now available, where you needed to pop it open and solder an SD card directly to the main board and hook that up to your computer and get a rip in Win32 disk imager, and you'd modify that dump, flash it back to the 3DS, and be able to downgrade to 9.2, I believe it was at the time, was the only exploitable firmware. That's all changed. 3DS hacking has come a long way, but for those of you who weren't around, it was pretty locked down for a long time. So I've already modded this bad boy. This is Japanese, as the Japanese consoles are significantly less expensive. So I modded this console using NTRBOOT. I've still got my old flash card and a magnet, of course, because you need that, and converted it to a USA region one. I used the Emunand method, so if I've got it set to boot Emunand by default. It takes a little bit longer to boot up Emunand, but yeah, as you can see, it's English, and if I were to boot it holding, I believe, L, it would boot into the Japanese sysnand. And for that, I would be able to access the eShop for the couple of remaining months that still exists. The issue with converting the region is, as you can see, if we go to the eShop, we're going to get an error code. And that was a lot of the reason why I used NTRBOOT, was to not connect it until it was already modded. Hoping to help with this issue, but it did not. So it is what it is. I don't really care. There's only about 3 more months of eShop existing anyway, so I'm gonna try to get all my games installed and updated. You can still update games, and something like Pokemon, you can actually still play it online, like Connect. You just can't access the eShop, so it's fine. And yeah, as you can see, we are on Emunand 11.16.0. So cool. If I remember, I'll leave the 3ds.guides section, or those guides are the way to go. There's also a GBA temp thread that I followed for this exact setup, because for changing the region through the regular 3ds.guides guide, it's, you know, changing your sysnand. I like this option better, where we keep the sysnand completely untampered with and fresh and safe, and we create an Emunand with the region swapped to USA. I like that option way better than modifying our sysnand and using that only. I'd rather keep that intact. It's just smarter. But yeah, that's this is gonna be a doozy. It's gonna be gnarly. If you're seeing this video, I probably succeeded, and if that's the case, I'm open to send-in services. Shoot me an email if you want to get this done. I do not check my Instagram or Facebook messages, so you know, a lot of people don't read my bios on there where I say that. But yeah, if you reach out via Instagram or Facebook, I'm probably never going to get back to you. I'm not doing send-ins through there because I can't search up a tracking number, can't search up your name. Email is king. Keeps everything. I like to keep everything in one place, so I'm not running around to a million different social media sites trying to figure out whose shit is what. So hit me up there if you want to get this done, and I'll tell you right now, it's not going to be cheap. This is gnarly. So yeah, I guess let's start by taking this guy apart. I'm going to tell you right now, this is my first time doing this, and expect, you know, we're gonna learn some things on the way. So this might be a little bit scuffed compared to future installs, you know, because we're learning this on camera as we go. So expect some fumbling around, you know. Refer to the written guide, I'll have that link below. This is just kind of we're just gonna do this together, alright? See what we learn along the way. Alright, battery gone. Now, meantime, while I tear this bad boy down, here's a word from our sponsors. A huge thank you to today's sponsor, PCBWay. Not only do they offer PCB manufacturing, but they now offer CNC and 3D printing services as well. I've gotten PCBs for many of my products and projects manufactured by PCBWay before. The website is super easy to use, and the quality and turnaround time is amazing. Very swag, very handsome. I like it. Thanks again to PCBWay for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to the show. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I've disassembled the console down to the main board here. Not really much. I've just used the Ifixit guide and just kind of winged it for the most part. I'll have that linked. As far as things worth mentioning, be very careful when you take this back panel off. These triggers, very delicate ribbon cables here. So these will be connected, so when you first take it off, you kind of loosely, you know, open it up and come in with your tweezers and disconnect the ribbon cables here, both sides. And yeah, just be mindful of that when you're taking off the back panel. As for the various connectors on here, there's a whole lot of ZIFs. So with these LCD ones, you really want to be careful. I use a fingernail. Make sure you're in the middle when you pull these up, and then very carefully, you know, evenly, like nudge one corner, nudge the other one. You don't want to like push it at an angle, because if you mess up the pins in these connectors, same with Nintendo Switch, when you go to lock these connectors back down, the ZIF will pop off and you need to replace the LCD connectors if that happens, if you're not careful, and that really sucks. So what we're going to do with the ZIFs is, I'm not going to take any chances, and we're going to lock them back down. Okay. Because yeah, replacing the connectors on these things is I would say that's a harder job. I mean, I'm speaking too soon. I haven't actually done the solder work here yet, but replacing those connectors is typically gnarlier than any of these mods that you can be doing. It's like a whole nother level, so be mindful of that. Now with these bottom sides, just looking at these ribbon cables here, I can already tell that if we unplug these, plugging them back in is going to fucking suck. So ideally, I'm gonna find something here to wedge this and secure it. We don't want any stress on these ribbon cables. We don't want to snag them and rip them or whatever. But I'm gonna see if I can come up with a solution to work on this without unplugging this. So when everything's said and done, we don't need to sit here and fiddle with this for fucking 30 minutes to line it up perfectly, because there's no slack whatsoever, and you're plugging it into like a loose motherboard. Just looking at this, I can already tell I haven't done this before. I had to plug this back in before, but looking at it right here, I had to do it on the other 3DS, and I remember I fiddled with that for fucking like maybe even an hour trying to plug it back in. It sucked. I don't want to have to go through that again. So I'm not unplugging these. I want to come up with a way to work around that. So where we need to be is somewhere in this region, but we're gonna go step by step, deal with that later. I know the first little bit here is cutting the back panel, I believe. So cool. So here's the guide. Capture board, blah blah blah. Product key has been written on the capture board. You can check out the file. Okay, cool. So there's no physical key like the other ones that you need to write down. So right off the bat, you're gonna notice that there's something really fucking janky about these, and that is that the flex cables need to be manually cut out. We're gonna scroll a little bit, and we're gonna see that you need to take scissors and cut out the flex cable manually. Multiple cables that you need to cut out manually, and I don't know why they went with this design here to do this, but it's really dumb. And they give you two, it looks like. These look like the same. There's doubles for everything. So at least there's that, as if you fuck it up, you got at least one more shot. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't seem. I've never seen it like this before, where it's just on a sheet that you need to cut out manually. You would think, you know, they would have that done at like whoever manufactures these flex cables could cut it out. Maybe it's a money saving thing. I don't know, but yeah, that's what we got to do. We got to cut out this, cut out the flex cable here. Looks like the first part we are going to need to deal with is putting in the PCB and cutting a large chunk of the case out. Pretty damn large chunk. Is what we gotta do. This. There's my kit. Very tiny stuff. So we're going to find the PCB. And it's got a cutaway and it fits around this hole here, it seems. Yes, yes. So what interferes? That's what I want to know. I'm going to be cutting very close to this trigger. I don't like that. So what needs to get cut? Okay, so it's going to be lined up kind Kind of like that. Right? Yeah. So we're going to need to cut into at least this. Let's see. Let's get a little bit closer here so you can see what I'm seeing. Alright, so it fits like that. So we need to cut grab my Sharpie here. This is on the inside, so I'm not too worried about making markings and shit like that. Should be totally fine. So I'm lining up this corner there. Make sure that's wrapping around here and it's not sitting flush because stuff is in the way. Ah, no. Nope. I'm going to like that. Hit that with some IPA before it dries. We'll need like a pencil or something. Okay. I'm actually going to physically mark this. Might as well. Okay, so we scored that. That's where that's gotta go. A nice and sharp tip here. And we are going to be very careful. Kind of crushing this. Don't want that. Get that on top. Okay. And I don't want to score this side, so can we get it close enough? No. Need a different Sharpie. Okay, fine point. There we go. Okay, nice. Cool. Now, it's on the back side here. So I think it's going to end up cutting a bit into the SD card portion there. Okay. And this is where a lot of people, you know, if you have a Dremel, you'll probably want to Dremel. I'm going to actually take a bit of Scotch tape. And I would like to get this out of the way. Don't want to have to keep fiddling around there with that. Okay, there's this little dealie there. Now, okay, I'm gonna go over my scores with Sharpie. Okay, Okay, so looking at the guide here, this is about what we're looking at with the cut. A whole lot of destruction going on. So this took me a second to make sense of this, but let's see what it's talking about. So we're essentially going to cut out where I have marked, and then this line here doesn't really show up well in the image or even the video, but there's a big bump here. So it seems like we're essentially going to cut it flush to just after where this curve is. I'm not great with the Dremel, so what I'm going to do is off camera. I'm going to drill a series of small holes like within the inside of this, give myself some room to play. Then I'll come in here with flush cuts, snip, 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 snip across all those holes, and then I will use a hand file to clean it up and make it all flush. We'll do all that off camera, but I'll drill the holes and then show you what I'm thinking. All right, it's looking a bit Swiss cheesy now. You can still see these lines here. This is all we need to cut out. So, well within those lines, I'm going to have a lot of filing to do. But we're essentially just coming in here. Let's get rid of that. And we are connecting the dots. Okay, well that's the lion's chunk of what we need removed here. Now I'm going to treat these flush cuts like scissors and get it as close to where we need it to be. And then we file. Filing does take quite a while, so you really, gotta mix and match here. How close to the edge you want to take it. What I'm gonna do here. So we need to deal with this area. A bit aggressive, I know, but fairly efficient for hand tools. Really it's just a matter of cleaning this up here. So I'm going to go ahead and file this off cam, and we'll see how it looks when it's done. Okay, so it's coming together nicely. It's not quite there yet, but here you will see that it wants us to cut out like a large square here for the USB connector. I think we can do a little better than that, and use the drill. Same thing. Try to get it a little bit. I mean, it's not going to be perfect shape of the micro USB. But we can try to get it as perfect as possible instead of just slopping up a square like this. So I'm going to do that. Same idea. I'm just going to drill holes, flush cut, and then try to sand it and get it as close as I can. Okay, so here it is, roughly the micro USB connector looks like here. Obviously it tapers down more on those corners there, but I just popped it in, traced the top with the Sharpie, And I'm just kind of eyeballed it with the rest as to what I'm cutting out there. So just put it as flat as you can, trace the top. We want to get it to the point where USB port is accessible. I believe it should stick out a little bit, right? I believe so. So yeah, I'm just going to drill, file, and just keep trying until we feel good about it. We'll move on to the soldering. Well, alright, ladies and gentlemen, I think we got them. So it's sitting in here flush. Slopped it up a bit with the drill. I went a bit overkill there. A little too deep. So I said screw it and just snipped it off. I don't really care. But personal console doesn't really matter to me. So it should be, I believe it's going to end up being flush there. I'll just have a bit up top, or I don't remember. It doesn't matter. It fits, so that's all I really care about. Yeah, the sanding worked out. It's pretty fine on this side, and this isn't going to be exposed anyway, so it's whatever. So let's move on to the flex cable soldering, and then we will get into or the flex cable cutting, and we'll get into the fun part, the soldering. And for this, I think I'm going to get, I need to get myself one of the scratcher pens, the electric scraper pens. I know that there's like cutting attachments, which would be really nice for something like this. Would have saved a ton of time. I think it's worth investing in one of those. So next time I do one of these, I will likely have one of those pens to easily get through, because the drill was not cutting it for, I couldn't get that angle there. Had to come from the other side, and then I was coming in a bit blind, and it went a little too low. So one of those pens would be nice. So cool. Let's cut these stupid flex cables and just go from there. As you can see, we've got doubles, and it's saying to use small because the margins interfere with soldering. Cut the yellow line as well. Okay. Jesus Christ, why is this not done already? This is crazy. You gotta pre-tin it? Okay. Okie dokie. Word. Yeah, this is gonna be a pain in the ass, man, especially with all the silicone covering all the components we need to solder to. This is gonna suck. Alright, whatever. It is what it is. Oh. Alright. So we've got two sets here. So we need to cut out that guy and this guy. Now I don't have little baby scissors. I've only got big man scissors. So I'll find my X-Acto knife. Okay, that was quite tedious. As you can see, I'm done cutting. There's this separation here as per the instructions, where you gotta slice it down the middle. Yeah, I mean, this was sketchy enough with an X-Acto knife doing this, but doing it with scissors, I don't know, man. I don't even know. It seems way easier to lose control and snip a trace, so let's, yeah. And what makes matters worse is the cuts kind of look like traces, like once you start cutting. So yeah, I don't know, man. This is, didn't fuck one up, but this could be better. This certainly could be better if it was just designed like to be scored like in the factory. It doesn't, I don't really understand why it's not. Let's make sure nothing's fucky there. The traces look good. Yep. So that one's the sketchiest right there. This one up the middle. So it's right by those other traces, and don't let the camera make it seem that forgiving. Let me grab a quarter for you, just so you can see the scale of what we're working with here. I mean, there's my thumb. Yeah, that's a quarter. Yeah, no sir, I don't like it. So next up, it wants us to tin all these pads here. All of them. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Okay, so it wants us to tin these up. I'll go ahead and use some no clean for now. These are all going to 0201 components, which, for reference, if you've done any switch modding, those are all like the volume plus resistor on the V1s. That's 0201, very, very small, as you would know if you've done that. What am I doing using the no clean? I hate this shit. Why am I using this? Let's bust out the Amtech. There we go. Easy peasy. I'll load up the tip a little bit. Okay. And these are quite small. Nice and easy. And yeah, we don't want to spend too much time on these flex cables here. Some tin. Okay. Okay, now it wants us to line the cable up with the capture kit itself. Solder it on. Simple enough. Let's do it. I'm gonna flex these pads up. And the flex is upside down now. Jesus Christ. I already don't like this one. Okay, let's try to tack one down. Is that on there? Good. Okay, where's our tweezers? Let's get the far one. Okay. This one at a time here. It's a bridge. It's okay. Okay. Bit more flux. What a weird kit. Everything about this is like goofy. Neato. Yeah, and I'm literally I'm using my camcorder and my capture card, filming it, and you know, I'm zoomed in, and that is my, what you're seeing is what I'm seeing as I work on this. And it's not bad. Doing this, I can already tell, like, we're nowhere near the gnarliest, and already here I wouldn't really want to do this with my naked eye. This is very much a under the magnifying glass, because again, you know. So that's what we just did. And you know, we could see these pads with our naked eye, but lining it up, we have to see through this flex cable to see the pads underneath. We gotta line those up perfectly. So, you know, use optics is all I'm saying. I think that's just be smart. Alright, let's carry on. Alright, so you see this white line here. You need to bend this cable along that white line, so I had to come in with my X-Acto knife, cut out another line, avoiding these traces here, and get it to that line, and we want to bend it along that white line. So it seems pretty perfect there. Cool. So I don't know where that's going. I'm not going to like crease it super gnarly until we figure out where the hell it's going, but it's creased enough to where there's a defined fold motion. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is the CPU area. Pulled the plate off already. I literally just used my thumbnails. It got all four corners. It came right up. Pretty easy to get off. Now we need to cut some metal shielding here. Let me look at the diagram again. Go a little overboard, it's fine. So we want just these clusters of, I believe those are resistors or capacitors. It's hard to tell in this lighting, but we're soldering to this cluster, so we need to snip to the right of those. Snip, and then we're going to snip here. Easy, and then these capacitors, we're soldering to those. So above, looks like a little closer, roughly in the middle of this, but a little closer to the top is what the diagram looks like. Okay, so very similar to what we got to do in the OLED installs. If you've done an OLED mod chip, this is probably all relatively familiar. I'm just going to kind of rock this back and forth here. We are going to need to clean up these shavings. You don't want anything shorting out on the board. I'm going to do the same over here. We're being very careful not to touch anything on the board with our flush cuts. It's the metal here. They're all very fragile components, so let's see. Just want to weaken the shield here to the point where it just comes off like butter. It's back and forth, back and forth. to clean up all of these shards. Let's use an IPA. And should just stick to the Q-tip. Cool, and we'll come in here and do a more thorough job in a moment. I just want to get this bit out of here. Okay. There we go. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Now, as you can see, we did nick the board a little bit right here. It looks like we got lucky. It's just on the ground plane. Not a big deal, but yeah, I didn't feel my flush cuts touch the board, so just be very careful as you're cutting it, because this is all very delicate. Now we need to solder to the tops of these resistors, so it's kind of coming in here, and it feels like we got lucky with the silicone here. Now I want to look at the diagram again and see where we solder to. So we solder to the bottoms of these 5 here, and to this guy, this guy. Okay, so I don't think I really need to do anything about the silicone. Looks like we can get to everything we need to get to. I want to come in here with a fine tip. The J tip might be a good one. You know what? Maybe not. I would like to pre-tin each of the components we're going to solder to. So it's kind of loaded up my tip. This guy, this guy, this guy. Yep. Let's do one at a time here. We don't want to, these are very, very small components, as I believe the smallest package size you can get for a surface mount resistor. So we don't want to do too much heat. Now it should be unleaded solder, which requires more heat, but we don't want to accidentally flow this component off the board. So replacing it is going to be a pain in the ass. It's all tinned pretty nicely. Yep. And I'm at 330C. Okay. So I'm going to clean these off. As you can see, we burnt up a bit of that silicone. Not bad. We don't have any bridging going on. That's good. And you know what? I would like to be double sure of that. I'm going to flux this up again. I'm having a hard time seeing between those caps. They might be, there's a good chance they're connected, but I don't want to chance that. Okay. Okay, so here's my setup here. So we've got the backside chilling up here to kind of hold the 3DS in place as we flip it over. So we've got this board here, and we fold her over. Be mindful of these flex cables here, and we want it kind of up like that. Right. How's this going? Yeah, like this. It's gonna be like this, okay. Got Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I gave up on trying to perfectly to keeping the flex cables plugged in. It just, alignment was not happening like that at all. So looks like we're supposed to get these on top of the resistors. This is crazy. The alignment here is, like, lining this up is so far the hardest part. Okay, so I am going to hope for the best here. Okay. Now these resistors are very brittle, so we do not want to stress them out too much. That actually, the alignment looks quite nice. I am going to take some Scotch tape here. And put it on this flex cable up top. I don't want to move the board at all. So I'll show you exactly where that is in a moment here. Okay. Seems safe. Yeah, I'm not so sure that this is something I'd actually want to do again. Okay, so the glare here is kind of fucking me up. Alright, so let's go. It's a bit much. Okay. So we're doing a lot of work blind, which isn't great. I don't love that. Fantastic. Oh shit. So we missed these two cap legs here. I did not pre-tin these. So we kind of just gotta hope for the best here. The ones we pre-tinned below the flex seem to have connected quite easily. These ones, doesn't seem to be working as well. Especially this one here. Yeah, that looks good. Not this one though. It doesn't look connected to me. Oh, unless... Oh, it's connected on the left side. I see. It's just so tight. Gotcha. I see. Boom, 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 boom. Pretty nice. I'll touch these ones up down here. And that's pretty good. I'm gonna get some close-ups with my phone camera here. Go at it with another look from another angle. But this seems pretty good. And I suppose I could check in diode mode to make sure I'm getting a reading on each of these pads here. So I figure I should be. Yeah, the alignment for sure is the gnarliest, and I don't think it's possible without completely removing the board, like flopping it over. I just don't think it's gonna happen. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, everything's connected. The glare's a little bad, I apologize for that. But I've got my meter in diode mode here. And what I'm going to do, I won't be able to have my meter on cam because this is a very, very tight shot. I want to touch each pad individually and make sure I'm getting a reading. We've got a reading there. Okay, so some of these are a bit spotty with their readings here, so I'm going to go over everything a few more times until they get consistent. I'll try some of this. And if you get a beep, if something's grounded, that's not good. Okay, I don't know if my meter was just acting up or what, but went over everything one more time, and I'm getting a reading on everything here. It's all pretty consistent. That one's like 12 something, this one's 15 something, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19. Okay, well, feel pretty good about that. Alright, let's carry on. I think the gnarliest part is over, next to putting everything back together. Okay, next we gotta deal with audio, so we're gonna pretend these 3 pads and connect this flex here. Okay, add a bit of flux. I'm still using my J-tip here. Be careful of the ZIF connector. Don't want to touch the middle one. Okay, you know what? I would like to fix this to the board before soldering this flex cable here. Okay, I've got the 3M tape down here. And what we need to do is make sure this is like centered to where the circle is like in the middle of the ring here. And that looks pretty good. Now back to this. Let's see if that lines up better now. Okay, so it seems relatively lined up. Pretty big pad, so it's whatever. Okay, I'll get a nice juicy ball. Cool. Now I should get a reading. Or is there a ground point? Okay, the last little piece of the puzzle here is to connect this capacitor to that one. This is ground. Did it come with a little bit of wire? I think it may have. I don't know. Well, I am going to use... that's a pretty beefy cap, so I'm going to use some 30 AWG to get this done. Well, alright, ladies and gentlemen, we've got the audio ribbon, I believe, connected correctly right here. Going to the main board, we've got the single wire for ground, and from here we got all of this. Let's get rid of that little fuzzy. And there's some, you know, still a little bit of no clean tacky flux. Things are gonna get on it. We've tested the pads. We tested them straight from here, not on the main board. So if I put it together and have issues, I would have to guess that it would be on the flex connector on this end, since we didn't test on that end. We tested on this end, so odds of that seem pretty low. Those are pretty big beefy joints. Pretty sure we got that on there right, so really it's a matter of putting it back together and seeing if we got it or if we blew it. I don't know. Let's find out. I'll see you when it's put back together. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we got them. The time is now. The time is now. So long story short, I'm gonna cut past all the troubleshooting bullshit. So I put this back together and it was like intermittently working. Like the bottom screen was acting wonky, and then I was getting no device connected, no signal, etc. I'd be swapping USB cables, and like sometimes it would work, sometimes, most of the time it wasn't working. So I went back in there and I was trying to get to the flex cable on the capture card itself, and it's not easy to do. It's borderline impossible, and I ended up ripping the flex cable like clean in half, ripped all the traces, totally fucked it. So at that point we have 2 flex cables, so I cut up the second one, installed it, pretty much started from scratch. It really didn't take that long considering I've just gone through the process. I know what I'm doing. And yeah, tested with the multimeter, everything tested fine. The difference this time is I do not like a flash to a picture of what I'm talking about. When the flex cable's installed, it's really not flush with the board. It's kind of like pulling up and like stressing out those joints. So I used my trusty old UV resin to lock in the corners, just to have it locked in by the CPU, only by the CPU there. I don't want that flex cable moving around, and the way this thing is designed, it's, you know, it's folding in half, it's kind of pulling up on itself on the joints. I don't like that one bit, so I tacked it in along the edges with UV resin, and yeah, it's working quite nicely. I feel like that will also help prevent, you know, when you do an install of one of these, everything's working fine, it's ship it, you do something else, and you know that cable's, that shitty little cable is moving around, it's pulling upon itself and causing issues down the line. So I think that is the secret sauce there, is tack that in. So yeah, I mean, this is working great. It's a new 3DS, much more challenging than the other 3DSs for these capture kits, but probably worth it, because, you know, everyone would prefer a new 3DS or a new 2DS over the original ones, as, you know, install speed, like it supports more games, and it's overall just a smoother, much smoother experience. Now, I did slop up the USB port on this. I just cut the square there. I don't love it, but now that I've done it, I've got an idea. I want to use you know, a grinder pen to kind of cut that out on the next ones I do. So I will get this USB port looking nice on future installs, and it probably should be towards the end of the install, so it's kind of hard to anticipate for the spacing of the foam there, of the pad. So you might cut it out, but you know, you're not anticipating the thickness. And if you were to measure just that, I mean, there's components in the way, so you got to kind of account for that if you're gonna cut it in advance. Yeah, you gotta kind of cut it in advance, I guess. I don't know. I could definitely do a better job of that with the right tools and setup. The drill was not the move. Won't be doing that again. But this is mine, and I don't give a shit about that. Doesn't bother me one bit. But yeah, leave a like if you liked it. If you want to get one of these installed, hit me up. I feel good about it. I've learned a good bit doing this one, and since stuff went wrong, it's you know, I had to troubleshoot it, and I've kind of come up with a I've kind of got a feel for it. I've kind of got where, you know, the design of these kits themselves are kind of shitty and how to work around that. And yeah, I think you know, at least as of right now, having done just this one that you guys watch me do, I think the secret sauce is locking in that flex cable by the CPU. Those are 0201 components. They are not, you know, they're not the strongest components, and when you've got a flex cable that's just flopping around doing whatever, then you know you can get some wonky connections. It might test well, but you know, if it's getting stressed out, you might lose a connection there. So yeah, tack that in. Secret sauce right there. And yeah, thanks for watching. This is gnarly. I don't recommend doing it. But it's totally manageable. If you've done a Switch OLED install, I would say this is a bit gnarlier, but it's in that ballpark, and this just requires more time and patience. And yeah, as long as you can handle that, then you should be fine. Anyways, ModzvilleUSA signing out.